Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me on round three of Realm Runners. I'm very happy with the way things are going so far. The guests have been awesome, and that will continue tonight. Um, as usual, I encourage anyone visiting to subscribe and like to the Willow Wraith Press YouTube channel and the Realm Runner Spotify, which is now up there for the last week and a half, I think. There's like 28 people who have subscribed to it and like 6 hours listened so far. So that's good. You can find that anywhere Spotify podcasts are sold. And it should be good tonight. I'm very excited. He just had a new release come out recently, and I'm bringing him to the stage now. GJ Terral. Hello.
Hey, Pete. What's going on?
Nothing, buddy. How's everything going?
Pretty well, pretty well. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust some of the lighting. Since I had this set up, it's gotten a little bit darker outside. So,
Oh, you look glorious.
it's a lot of screen light, but yeah, no. Today's been a pretty good day. A lot of productive stuff going on. Excited to be here, chat about books and all sorts of stuff. So,
Yeah, books, a whole bunch of other stuff. That's one of the things that I think has been getting fine tuned as I'm going because I didn't want it to just be, what was your biggest influence growing up? Like, what's your writing process? Like, little
yeah,
official, because, in our little side chat, I think it's anything but official. So,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel like it goes a much longer way to getting people interested in you as a person. And, you're not just the name behind the book, and I feel like that's a much easier way to connect. Like pretty much everyone in that group so far has been an auto purchase once you get to know them, and it's like, well, shit, that's kind of what I've been hoping for all along, so I'm glad to continue it with you tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of fortunate because I only really operate one way, which is like, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. But I try not to be like unapologetically like a jerk or anything, but I am very much just myself most of the time. Uh, so yeah, I'm excited to sort of delve into that and talk about all sorts of stuff. Um, I don't know if you've got a plan for it, but I did mean to ask you if you made any more progress on Expedition 33 because I know I got you interested. And
That
so
was
I was curious
actually,
about
I had it written down because I wanted to bring it up, but
perfect.
yeah, we'll jump right in with that. I'm like 5 or 6 hours in, and
Nice.
you're definitely further in than me. Can you give the people here a little bit more backstory? A little further in means you've beaten it by
I
this
did.
point.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I mean, I haven't had a game hook me like this in a long time. But it's essentially, I think it's on most platforms, and it's a game that is heavily inspired by classic Final Fantasies, some Persona, a few different things. It's blew up online because it was sort of a small studio did it. Um, and it's just one of those games that came out complete, came out at a decent price point, and has just an amazing story with great graphics, fun gameplay, whole bunch of stuff. So, I think you even saw it blow up in like the writing community, and obviously we're in, the community as a whole is quite large, and we're in somewhat of a smaller bubble of that, right? There's pockets all over the place, but in the kind of spaces that we frequent, I saw it being talked about a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those games that's just fun and really good, beautiful soundtrack, great visuals, and for me, an addictive gameplay loop because there's a fine line between like the skill expression through like parrying and dodging and timing the enemy attacks and stuff versus just having like a good gameplay experience. So I
Yeah,
am a
and
gamer. I enjoy gaming. So
especially good ones like this. Actually, I'm not a big turn-based guy. I don't know
yeah,
why it just, especially fine. I don't know, man. Like I got hooked on like Oblivion, like that type of
mm,
stuff. The free
yeah,
roaming aspect of everything. I get bored when it's like, this is the order you have to go in. You can do
right.
that, but this has such a good ratio of that along with being able to parry and dodge. So it's almost like you're more involved in it. It's like
Oh,
turn-based
absolutely.
elevated. So I
Yeah.
like it a lot more. And it's funny you brought it up and tied it back to our little community of writing and everything,
Yeah.
or reviewing in my case. I'm not in there yet.
Yeah.
I'm on
Not
the
yet. You're
outskirts.
working on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you think that's because how not low budget, but this game was like, I read that they found the script writer for it on Reddit, and they found the
Right.
audio guy on SoundCloud, and the guy who did it was a person who worked at Bungie, and or not Bungie,
Uh,
BioWare,
Ubisoft.
Ubisoft, and it was
Yes.
like
Yeah.
his side project. So it's like this game that's gonna probably win all these awards. It has like the craziest world building, and it was made for like $1 million. So that kind of probably ties in very well with the indie community of writing, where it's people who are just like, maybe this blows up, maybe it doesn't, but like I
Yeah.
have something I want to do, and this is my passion. I'm fucking going for it, and they hit the jackpot essentially.
Oh, for sure. I could see that resonating with people who aren't, gamers, who are even people like maybe in the chat who don't plan to play games. Hearing that story, it's really impressive. You know, as a writer, as someone doing it, yourself, essentially, it's really, you hope that something will blow up, that something will like pick up and resonate with readers, or in this instance, gamers. And that's exactly what happened. And you can tell that the project was made with passion for that genre, for gaming in general. So yeah, absolutely. I think that plays a part of it, and why it sort of made the rounds in our community, as well as being, I'm in a lot of spaces where like darker toned stuff gets like mentioned, and this is, something that's, it's as much hope as there is in the game. It's a very sort of dark story, and it sets off in a very, while beautifully stunning visuals and a lot of flowers and things like that that are just like pretty to look at. It's undercut by this just like knowledge, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that like it starts off, people are dying, people, your loved ones are dying, and there's nothing you can do to stop it but try to essentially lay the path for the next generation. Is, and that gets mentioned in like the very first like 30 seconds, I think. So
Yeah, that is real quick. That is not a spoiler, but that first prologue, I think, made it, it's like not that long, 10, 15, 20 minutes, but like you're
yeah.
walking around, and as it's going on, it's just like all this is going to go away real quick.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like you said, towing that line of light and dark, which
Yeah.
I'm going to circle back to video games, because I actually had literally that question, and well, not question, but I wanted to bring it up to you, because I'm popping Bloodbound up here, the cover, which I reviewed maybe like a couple weeks ago, and this was one of my
Yeah.
5-star reviews from April. I loved this, and almost similar to the game, there's something that happens in the very beginning of your book where it is dark, and I'm not going to do any
Yeah.
spoilers also, because it's really not a giant spoiler. It's the first chapter, but
Yeah.
reading that was jarring, and I was like, oh boy, like here we go. But the way that the rest of the story went, it wasn't dark and grim or anything like that. It
Yeah.
actually had a lot of themes underlying it that made it much more uplifting and positive than I expected, especially after the first part. And this is after like we've already been talking and everything, so I know you, and I was like, holy shit, I just got hit so hard unexpectedly. But how did you go about planning that to make it so like foreboding in the very beginning, and then kind of pivot it, and it took like a very interesting turn where it wasn't the typical story? And I'm not going to say any spoilers from there, but how did you go about doing that light and dark line towing?
Right. And I do, I think it might be a type of ADHD or something. Light and dark about Expedition 33, something really interesting is Claire Obscura, which is like the sort of tagline, Claire Obscura Expedition 33. That is a painting technique where light and dark is mixed. is like Claire Obscura. So that was like an intentional choice of theirs, right? So I thought that was really cool. And the fact that you said light and dark, it just like stuck with me, and I had to get that out there.
Man.
Yeah. Sorry. And then as far as my so Bloodwoven had a few different iterations, and I've talked about it before elsewhere, so I'll try and keep it somewhat concise and brief. But initially, Lynn, instead of being this like hardened, 30-year plus soldier, the initial concept for it was he would be just like a village boy, local yokel who ends up being a hero through circumstances not of his own making, sort of. And I wrote that story, and I finished it, and I didn't love it, right? Like I wanted to do something and have it be more impactful for Lynn, because essentially in both iterations, he gets more or less embroiled in a rebellion of sorts, right? And you have the Ferucium, the government, sort of controlling things across Danica. And then you have a contingent of people who are unhappy with it, which, is just the way it goes. And so Lynn, as a farm boy who essentially didn't know any better, his stakes were kind of too low in that, right? Like, obviously, he might want things to be different and he might want things to be good, but there was no, like, that story's been told so many times, and there's not a lot of conflict with that other than like superficial stuff. And so what I decided to do was age him up and make him part of the problem, essentially, right? Like, Lynn's a very good guy. I think he's a really good guy. I wrote him to be just a good person. And I think it was funny because my wife got like she got to like a certain point in the book where she was like, wow, I thought Lynn was like a really good guy, and he's not. And I was like, what do you mean he's not a good guy? And she was like, well, I just thought he was like a golden hero sort of character, and he's not that. And I'm like, yeah, he's not, because he's just a guy doing his best, and not everybody makes the right decisions. So balancing light and dark, setting it up for that like really sort of gut punch moment in the beginning, was sort of a way to characterize the core cast, right? To show what some of the stakes are, and to give Lynn a little bit of a purpose. Because the second iteration that I got to, because I said there were a few in the first chat, or in that first little segment, Teal died. She did not live through. The baby died, right? Like, the story was just completely missing a lot of what it has been praised for, right? And I had a Reddit beta reader that I met on Reddit, and she asked a very kind of poignant question by the end that stuck with me, because they were like, hey, this is a good story, but why did the baby die? And I was like, because I'm a coward who didn't want to deal with that when I was writing this story. And then I was like, but what if Lynn wanted a family? It's not that strange of a concept. And what if he sort of took on this, like, not quite a parental role, not at first in book one, but a guardianship role, right? And that's where it ended up developing. And I just sort of knew, when I wrote Bloodwoven, I thought I wrote a grimdark story. Like, I was like, oh, this is grimdark, right? And that just kind of showed how naive I was, because I wasn't reading a lot of the genre. I had read little bits and pieces here and there, but I wasn't in the genre. And so me thinking like, oh, I wrote something kind of dark. No, I wrote sort of a standard level of darkness fantasy, right? And I wrote a lot of hope into it, because that's the sort of stories that I really enjoy. So
yeah, no, I agree with all that 100%. I am so glad you chose to pivot, and the baby lived, and Teal lived, and everything. I thought Lynn was fantastic, and I still have to read the second and third books, which you just sent me in the coolest box ever, which I was happy about. So thank you for that. But one of the things that I think is really awesome and should be pointed out is that, like we already talked about, how Lynn is, your wife is right. He is a good guy, but no one's the best guy. And I think one of the coolest aspects about Lynn is that he's one of the stronger guardian male characters like that, but is very adept at showing his emotions. He doesn't come across as whiny or a baby or anything like that, but when he is kind of focusing on the negatives and the emotional burdens that he is being carried with, you empathize with him a lot more. So I just wanted to commend you on that, because I'm seeing reviews come in for 2 and 3, and like I'm about to just call out of work and just start firing these off. But was that also kind of what you intended, to have him be that character where it could be almost identifiable with everybody?
No, I mean, I wish I could say like, yeah, that's what I had planned for. I sort of just wrote a version of a character that I thought I could enjoy, right? Like, so I did write Bloodwoven to get picked up traditionally, and I got a full request on it, and but they declined, saying, once they read it, they were like, it's just not unique enough in the current market. Da 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 da. And I was like, that's fine, because by the time I got that declination, I had already had like big heart to heart with my wife, and I was like, at the speed that I write and at everything kind of going into it, I think I'd rather go independent. And so I did that, not really aware of like what the market was like, and not really knowing what all of these complaints on characters were and stuff like that. And so when I wrote Lynn, I wasn't trying to write him any one specific way. It just was how it came out to tell the story that I was trying to tell. And the fact that it has resonated with so many people, I'm just completely lucky. I wish it was like I said, I wish I could say it was intentional. I've written some really shitty characters before, in the sense of like, they're not good people. And those are some really fun ones to write, right? Because you can sort of like, in a project that probably won't be releasing for many, many years, I got this guy named Jerome, and he's just terrible. I mean, he's an awful, awful character, and he's a POV character. So getting to write just someone who's kind of despicable, is a lot of fun. But being able to write Lynn, and I lived in his head for like 2 years, right? Essentially, if not longer. Freaking Jerome. Yeah, my wife knows. That's my wife in the chat. Freaking Jerome. Getting to sort of live in Lynn's head, it was a great time, because he's just a good guy doing his best. And I think we can all sort of relate to that, right? Like, you always want to be, I mean, maybe not everybody, but me personally, I always want to be the sort of guy who will just try my hardest no matter what. So book 2 and 3 sees that idea of Lynn get pushed to the limits, right? Like, he does everything that he can for the people he cares about. So
yeah, that's super interesting. Also, it's funny that like the feedback you got from that, whoever gave the, I don't know how it worked, whoever that said it wasn't unique enough, because one of the more unique things I've read recently was about in this book was the whole aspect of the stitching, and how that would go against the weaving and all of the government in charge. I was just stuttering super hard right there.
No, you're good.
But going against their beliefs, and the way that Teal came in, and I'm very happy again that she made it through the opening book there. But that's how, when Lynn got hurt and she used the stitching to heal him, and that's really the turning point for him, where it's maybe the untethered, because that's technically what she is, even though he previously fought real untethered, who are out of control savage animals. And that almost feels like that cowl coming off the face moment, where it's like there's that realization where it's like, maybe the world is a lot more than what I have been led to believe. And I thought that was awesome. I'm surprised to hear that wasn't a unique thing. How'd you come up with the stitching idea? That almost reminded me, reminded me of people saying that tattoos aren't good when I was reading it. Is there a little bit of that in there?
So that's what my dad got too, actually. That same idea about tattoos, and the thing that I think is semi unique and why it resonates with like a lot of different people for various reasons is it could almost be applied to anything that a group is told like, hey, that's bad and you shouldn't do that for X, Y, and Z. And then so it's really easy to sort of like put that or put yourself into that space. Stitching, I don't know. I thought it would be cool. I was like, yeah,
It is.
you have you're able to work magic into the world, right? Okay, cool. So what does that mean? It means that you can make soft bands of light, essentially, or hard bands of light, and some capable of cutting, some more rope-like. Okay, and what does it mean? Like, wouldn't it be cool if you could strengthen your body through that means? What if you could strengthen your mind? What if you can do these different things to make yourself more strong? And why would the government or the people in charge, the powers that be, not want you to do that? And the answer is control. And it's like, okay, so why would they want to control you? And so that doesn't really get touched on a lot in book one, despite the rebellion and stuff. But that idea was in place from the beginning, and it gets delved into more in the sequels. But Attack on Titan, which is an anime, was like a big influence because you have these, yeah, anime hater. You have these people who are special because of their genetics, essentially, who are they're put on an island, or they don't know that they're put on an island. They think they're the last people left alive in the world. And then as the story unfolds, you realize not everything is as it seems, right? And so that was like a little bit of inspiration. And then with Stitches, I was just like, oh, this would be really cool. And that's where it came from, because I thought it'd be a cool concept, and it ended up working exceedingly well. I did get called out one time by a reviewer on like Book Sirens, who was like, this guy's using a lot of sewing terminology, but it doesn't even make sense. And I was like, fair. I mean, I did use weft and weave and bindings and like words like that, because in the world, everything is related to the tapestry, right? That's the sort of religion that people have placed it under, and or that has sort of evolved in this world. And so of course there's going to be some sort of colloquialisms and in-world forms that relate to that, right? And so that's where that all came from. And so while, yes, the weft in the book is not the same weft that you would find if you're like stitching together a tapestry or something, it just sort of made sense. And for me, I was like, weft sounds like a sharp word versus
Yeah,
weave.
that hits.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I
mean,
went with it.
Now that I know you know so little about sewing, I don't think I'm going to continue the series.
Yeah, you
But
should probably stop. Yeah, you won't enjoy it.
I really liked book one, but book 2 and 3 literally unreadable.
Yeah, and I actually just double down on the terminology. I start using looms. You're not even ready for that. Like,
Yeah, I'm waiting for the cotton gin in the next trilogy.
yeah, keep waiting, buddy.
Besides Attack on Titan, which you just mentioned as an inspiration. Oh, actually, I'll see what my brother said. I bet this guy doesn't even know an overhand knot from a square knot. Wow. So we'll ask Reddit sewing. Wow. All right. So we'll get some more feedback, and hopefully the next time I have you on, we'll have an answer to that question.
Okay, perfect.
Besides Attack on Titan, which again, I know I'm the anime hater, and
that's okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll give it a try at some point. I watched Death Note, and I did really enjoy that, but I'll keep trying at some point. But what other inspirations did you take from? Because even mentioning that, and kind of the idea that it did give you, I never would have connected those couple of things. So
right.
In trying to make a story, especially like when I spoke with Janelle last week, she has the horror story, the Clatterman. She had to try and make the that urban legend not the biggest retread of all time. So how did you go about taking those inspirations and molding it into a unique story of your own?
Yeah. So another big inspiration of mine would be Brandon Sanderson with Mistborn. Just the way that he writes magic in general. I do typically line up with his philosophies on it, as far as like hard magic having repercussions, which is like pretty obvious throughout Bloodwoven that if you continue to draw on this magic, there will be consequences. And the seed idea of that actually came. I was talking to my paramedic. He's not a paramedic anymore, but a paramedic buddy of mine about like what would it be like if instead of because in like Mistborn and stuff they draw on metal that they like eat, right? I was like, what would happen if you're drawing on some of your essential metals from inside, like your blood, essentially. And that's part of where the title comes from, Bloodwoven, because they are pulling on some of the stuff within them to make that happen. And that's why they start having these consequences and side effects and things like that. And so the people in world don't really know that, but that's where it comes from. And that idea wouldn't exist without having that sort of external concept from like Mistborn to make me think like, oh, what would happen if like anemia and things like that were sort of some of the side effects. And then obviously it gets more in depth from that. So that was that. Rage of Dragons, actually, as odd as that might sound, was a little bit of influence by Evan Winters, just because Tal's arc in that and the violence and revenge that he wants was like really interesting to me. And Lynn isn't so much on a quest for revenge, but Teal is. Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynn was Orca's sort of plot thread, was an inspiration as well that I'd be remiss not to pull on or to mention that I sort of pulled from. But I thought about making Bloodwoven like Norse, and then I didn't. And there is some like iconography and stuff that is like a little bit Celtic and stuff, or Celtic, sorry. But it's not, it's sort of just its own thing, and it doesn't draw on much, even like the Velkith and all that stuff. That's not really pulling from anything in the real world. I just sort of made it up. I mean, pantheons, if you have one pantheon, you've sort of seen them all. No offense, but there's a similar structure. And then for me, it was like, oh, well, what if, what's the difference between like a god and someone who's been called a god, right? Like, and where does that delineate, and how does like that come to be, right? And so that was part of like the lore and history and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question. I think I did.
I think so. We're going to go with yes.
I ramble. I'm sorry.
No, that works out well. I'm a big rambler. So at least we ramble about the things we like, which
rambling, man. Yeah,
exactly. We mentioned Teal a couple of times, and I'm going to pull up a quote in a second, but one of my favorite side characters, and again, I'm going to say it, thank God she made it. Well, we'll talk about him in a little bit too, because I wanted to ask your wife whether it was Eamon or Jerome as a bigger punch in the face person at the moment. I'll just go to that right now, actually. If she's not in the chat, that's totally fine. But even in your point of view, because reading him was skin tingling. Like I wanted to just like reach through the book and just kill him over and over again. Every time he's on the page, I'm like, why is anyone listening to this guy? Like halfway through, he just reappears and talks, and it's just like, no, like he probably has a plan, and it'll work out to the benefit of us. And I'd put the book down and just be like, but it's not. Like, we know it.
It's quite clearly not going to be good. Why is anyone? I don't. He was an interesting character because his initial. I do refuse to dislike him. I think he's the unsung hero of the Binding Tenets trilogy. Okay, like it or not, man. Skin tingling. So I think Eamon was initially more a foil to Lynn than he was a villain in the initial concept. So when Lynn was When Lynn was a young boy, Denro, who is like his mentor in this iteration, and Eamon were the pair of escorters essentially who came to the village. And so Eamon was a little bit more of a foil, not so much a villain, but still had like some schemes going and stuff like that. In this one, I was like, no, let's make him one of those just kind of over ego, purely his own motivations are what drives him sort of character. And then so that's where I went with that. Jerome is he's a bad guy. He does bad things. He's kind of a creep too, but he's because you have a POV from him, he's a bit more likable. And I do think if I had made like Eamon a POV character, like there would be some people who are like, you know what, I kind of get where he's coming from on some of this.
For sure.
Because to him, Lynn is just he's a fucking idiot. He's like, screw this guy. He's only here to do what I need him to do. And if he's not doing it, then what use is he? And it's people like that suck, but they exist. And, if you have that sort of narcissist and you can, see through their lens there, when it's his character voice giving you the pros and everything, you probably would think like, okay, I kind of get it, but he sucks. He does suck.
Terrible. But you know who doesn't suck? I'm looping it back in.
Teal?
Oh yeah. No, she
sucks.
Rules.
You like her?
How can you not? But I have a quote that I'm pulling up also because I think one of the most underrated aspects that we haven't touched on yet is how strong the writing actually is in it. And I want to give props on that. I put this in my review. I'm not going to make us voice act it out, but this is like, this is just so awesome and insightful. It's, it kind of goes back to towing that light and dark that we were talking about earlier, because this is in the middle of nothing, like just them traveling, and like lines like this are all over the place. And I appreciated it very much because this is in the middle of it. I think her talking about how, the gods that he has been following his whole life are just not that. And they've been turned and twisted and used to kind of distort his worldview on anything. And Lynn, hearing all of this, is expecting some grand revelation, and there isn't one. It's just, life is just fucking different. And, there's no morality to it sometimes. And she's just saying, there is no moral to this story. This is just the way life is. And I just loved that. I thought it was awesome. So again, I just wanted to give a special shout out to that. But throughout the book with the different types that, the escorters and everything, I think the supporting cast especially was such a strong part of the book. Especially because, like you just said, if we got more in the mind of some of the other characters, it would have been a little bit easier to pick up on their vibe and, the way of thinking and everything. But Lynn is a one POV only. So did you take a kind of special tone to the other characters to put a lot more emphasis on the story as well? Because it feels like a lot of it came together through conversations that he had with other people, as opposed to, the other books that you read where it's I was in his head, then jump to hers, then hers, and you put everything together that way.
It was, it's definitely a little bit of a struggle, right? And I've talked about this with Bill Adams, with WWP a lot, just because it's sort of, you're handicapping yourself a little bit, like you're tying a hand behind your back as you're telling the story when you keep it to a single POV, because you don't get some of that extra world building, and you don't get to see, what the villain's motives actually might be. And so you have to find ways to give it that connective tissue. And I would say, and I've seen it in a few different reviews, that if I think the weakest part while also strong, I do like all the side characters. A lot of people, or a handful of people, have definitely said that they wanted to see the side characters fleshed out more, and to like have a better understanding of who they were, what they're doing. And so while they're in the scene and while they're there, no one said that they don't feel essential or that they don't feel as if they're helping tell the story, but they just always wanted a little bit more of them, which I completely understand. It's just when you have a single POV story and Lynn's only actions or what's immediately around him, that's what he's seeing, that's what he's engaging with, it becomes a lot harder. And there just wasn't, because of the way that the story was told and because of how I told the story. I'm here for the jogging fit. I'm not. I didn't end up wearing.
I was about to pop that up, and I was like, we've only gotten the upper body shot so far.
But it ended up being a like, could I have written it so that there was a little more downtime so that he could talk to Pale more and figure out more of his life story? Yes, but sort of as you said, a lot of that was hinted at and played with through the dialogue, through little bits and pieces kind of dished out here and there. So I did try to make every, I think there's only probably in book one, maybe 3 or 4 close supporting cast members and then like a few more dotted out. And so it was a very intentional thing to make each one as unique as possible from the other, just to give them a little more life. But
yeah, I think I like that a lot more than maybe because it was so small that each one of them stood out taller, as opposed to a cast of side characters where there's 40 different people dropping bombs along the way. But I like that a lot. And hold on, I had one other thing that I was going to ask about here. But what made you choose the solo POV?
Again, that was part of initially querying it and trying to keep this fantasy novel at a tight word count and stuff. Because initially, I was gonna try and query it, so I was like, oh, I got to keep it under 100,000 words, or nobody's gonna touch it because I'm a debut author, and those sort of restrictive qualities. Looking back on it, would I change it? Probably not, because I do have like other multi POV works and stuff, or things in the work, so I don't really feel like I need to. I feel like Bloodwoven ended up being told sort of exactly how it needed to be, so.
And it worked out well. So I'm excited to keep going with it.
I was wondering what you were doing. Okay.
Oh, why? What happened?
Oh, nothing, man. Nothing.
So yeah, further talking about I was like, where'd he go? What happened? But I wanted to bring it back actually to the Claire. I always get the name wrong. I know Expedition 33, Claire Obscura. What is
Claire
it?
Obscura, I think.
Claire Obscura. Yeah. So when we were talking about that at the beginning, what do you think, besides that, the most unique story that you've come across recently, whether it's a book or a game, anything like that?
That's kind of tough. Like that one is obviously unique, and once you finish it and you see kind of how unique it is, it's funny because it starts off really unique, and then once it pulls that layer back, it's sort of treading familiar-ish ground. If you're a fan of like fantasy and fiction in general, it's like, oh, okay, I've seen stuff like this before. And then it pulls that layer back and you're like, oh, okay, so it is still pretty unique, right? That's what it does. I think that's really interesting because to be able to pull that off is like crazy. To me, it's like, oh, okay, so you made me feel as if I was treading new ground, and then I was comfortable, and then I was treading new ground again, and that's wild. And so to be able to pull something like that off in 2025, when they say every story's been told and everything's been done, and that was really unique. Reading wise, I should say, I think one of the more unique things I've read recently would probably be Laura Huey's Sunset Sovereign, which was a dragon telling its tale to like a burglar, which isn't anything inherently new, but the way it was told and sort of the direction of it, it just struck me as really unique and done in a good way. I'm shows. Nothing that I guess the most unique thing that I've watched recently that I would say was probably Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which I thought was like really well done, and that surprisingly also influenced the world of Bloodwoven a little bit. The cybernetic mods versus stitching and altering your body in that way, and the repercussions of said things. Right, you might have to squint to see it, but it was certainly a little bit of an influence. Not the story itself, but the way that you can modify your body and stuff. And I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's so much good stuff out there right now. Like we're truly in a age of just consumption where you want a unique story, you can find it like pretty easily. But those are the ones that like come to my mind right off the top of my head. So
yeah, those are definitely good ones. The Cyberpunk Edge Runner I haven't watched yet, but I'm assuming you played the game at this point.
I did not ever play the game because when I was in the market to play the game, it was riddled with bugs.
Yeah, it
And I was like,
sucked.
okay. My buddy, a friend of mine, Mike, he's played it and he absolutely enjoyed it. And so I've known about the franchise and stuff, obviously. And then I was like, oh, you know what? The show's out. When it came out like 2 or 3 years, I think 2 years ago now. I was just like, oh, this thing rocks. It's so good. It's a very good show. And while it is technically anime, it doesn't really have any of those kind of cringy tropes that some animes have, which I was talking about in the chat earlier today, even that some just can't get out of their own way because that's the culture and that's what the fans are used to, so they get that and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I got Cyberpunk when it first dropped, and it was impossible to play. And then I think I gave it like a year, and it is amazing. But that's one of those games where you can get so lost in what you're doing, and the next thing you know, it's 120 hours later.
Right.
What are your favorite worlds to get lost in? I know even before we joined on the official live stream, we were saying, well, you were saying how you're essentially a hobbit.
Yeah.
Is that your go-to world to get lost in?
I mean, it definitely used to be. I don't really get lost in worlds like that too much anymore. And the older I get, the less willing I am to get lost in a world. So open world games, I'm fatigued on, I think, a little bit. Like there were just so many of them, and a lot of them, if you strip away a lot of the busy work, are actually pretty empty, which is like a chief complaint. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do, but is any of it actually meaningful? And not to keep just absolutely loving Expedition 33, but it does a really good job of giving you what people in the gaming industry call hallways, which is like, yeah, you're just on point A to point B. And that's usually frowned upon in gaming because it's too linear. There's not enough expression that way. But what Expedition 33 does is it opens it up just enough so that you still get that sort of like classic feel of exploring like a top-down Final Fantasy map where you're like, oh, let me go through the dungeon and go down this way, and oh, a treasure chest, good. It still gives you enough of that to feel rewarding without feeling like it's wasting your time. And so I picked up Avowed not too long ago, which looks amazing. And I was like, oh, this is going to be right up my alley. This is great. Action RPG in the vein of Oblivion and things like that. And it was just too open for me. I knew that it would be. I assumed it would be, and it just was. Yeah, Dark Souls is also pretty linear. Yeah, and it's beautiful. And I don't think to this day I've actually gone through and beaten one, but it's never the world that fatigues me, if that makes sense. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll come back to this later, and then I just never do. As far as like reading. I'll get lost in any book as long as it's good, and it doesn't have to be a familiar world or anything. Right now, I'm still making my way through Mike Roberti's Grave for Us All. I'm almost, you can't even see it because of the camera, but I'm over halfway through, and I've been trying to do at least a chapter a day because although I am a writer, I was a reader first. I'm always trying to just read as much as I can. I've been listening to The Devils because that just launched by Joe Abercrombie. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a really good time with it.
Yeah.
And it's similar enough to his other works as far as like prose and how he sort of mentions magic and stuff like that. I absolutely love the way that he introduces these sort of supernatural elements in his books, and that kind of thread continues where it's like he's not explicitly saying what's happening or what's going on, but there's enough context and there's enough mystery and just magic to the way he explains magic that it clicks for me, and I'm like, I freaking love this. So that's what
Joe's batting 1,000. I know it's like, oh wow, hot take, Joe Abercrombie's really fucking good.
But... yeah, hot take. I mean, to some people that is a hot take. Some people are like, he's overrated, and it's like, well,
some people are dumb.
Is he overrated or is he rated accurately for his skill expression? Because I would say he's very well rated for a reason. He's good at what he does. His prose isn't flowery, but it's descriptive, right? And that's something that's hard to balance, right? Having something be descriptive without being like overwrought or overdone. And so he's just, if I had like a top 3 of our generation right now, and not that I'm the same age as him, but that my generation of like what I can get to consume, I'm pretty sure he's my number 1 right now, just as far as how much I'm enjoying his work. Fonda Lee, probably up there because of the Greenbone saga. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that trilogy. I did not read any of the. I think she had a short novella come out like a year or 2 ago. I haven't picked that up yet, but it looked interesting. So
I need to read the Jade. What is Jade?
Greenbone Saga.
Greenbone Saga. I remember Jade Empire, Jade City. I can't remember
Jade
the
War.
name.
Yeah.
I need to keep it. It's like The Godfather.
Yeah.
It
took me a little bit to get into it just because the style of the story was just a little bit different from what I was used to. But at the time I was consuming, like I was going through Sanderson's entire catalog right before I got to her work. But it's I mean, just top tier. It was really good when you talk about like characters and being able to see their growth through a series. Insanely well done in my opinion. But
that really needs to be an auto pickup at this point. It's been recommended so much by so many people that I actually respect, and it's like I don't know why I don't hop into that. I feel like there's so much out there that's good, like Mike's book that I haven't read the second one that you're reading yet, but he was my other 5-star from April, and I'm almost more focused on the smaller at this point. Like I have the Devils here, and Abercrombie is my absolute number 1, the same as you. I think I'm like 20 pages in because I'm reading so many other of like not necessarily our immediate friends, but like people we know and talk to. And it's like me rushing to read the Devils isn't going to make or break Joe Abercrombie. Like, me having someone on here isn't going to make or break them either, but at least it's like, I'm going to try and give back a little bit quicker while I can at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, there's some people who you can tell like in the community that they just like boost others to boost others in the sense of like they're just doing it to do it. And then there's some people like AJ Calvin, Andy Peliquin, most of the Willow Wraith guys, to be honest. They're boosting because they want to, because they enjoy reading, or at least they present really well, like they enjoy it, right? And so to be able to have a show and get people on, and it doesn't even, like you said, have to be immediate circle, but the sense of, unfortunately, writing is a very solitary act, right? You do 90% of it alone in a dark room. If you're like me, you're in a dark room. If you're like some people, you probably have a lamp on or something. And finding a community and being able to uplift others once you join it is really good. And one, for your mental health, in my opinion, because if I had been on my own for this last year, I'm part of the Secret Scribes Collective, and then I was fortunate enough to be invited to join Willow Wraith as like a part-time reviewer / contributor. And it's just having a group of people that can help support you, and not just help support you, but like talk to you about the bad times and the good times. It makes a difference when you're starting out. So
yeah, for sure. It's definitely important to be a part of all that and stay connected. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Speaking of being connected, there's an ongoing conflict kind of growing in the community, and it's really, are you a Sleep Token fan or are you not?
I almost wore a Sleep Token shirt just for the lulz, right? No, so I started listening to Sleep Token in 2023 when their Take Me Back to Eden album dropped, because my buddy Mike was like, hey, big metalhead, was like, hey, check out this album, I think you'll like it. And I listened to it and I was like, I do like it. That's some good stuff to me, right? And then I went through their old catalog, found out that they have a lot of callbacks in the 2023 album from their like 2019 album and stuff. And it was storytelling. I'm a huge fanboy. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. Yeah. So just seeing the way that they sort of put little hints in their later music about their earlier music, and the first 3 albums were like technically a trilogy where they're trying to tell a story of some sorts. I was just instantly hooked by that whole atmosphere. And then the singles started dropping, and the writing community really, our insular little bubble, a divide started forming where it's like, oh, this music's ass, or this music's the best thing I've ever heard. I think it's good music. I'm a big fan. I don't hate you if you don't like it. Just like I don't hate you if you don't like anime. We're good. It's just two different. Yeah.
I've been holding that breath for like 52 minutes. All right.
Was it a breath you were not aware you were holding? Was it?
I didn't know. I felt the weight lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah. So as my wife said, huge fan of it, but at the same time, it's all good. I don't begrudge Zach Bowen for not liking it.
Oh no, he got real named. We're at 2-2 so far. I said I'm going to keep tabs on this throughout the rest of the year, and
okay,
it'll be a match at the end. So as of right now, you and Janelle, and I'm indifferent. I think they're a male-led Evanescence, which I don't really like that much. It's kind of obnoxious. I like the music, but this is like how I am. I like the music. I don't like the singing. It's the same thing with Radiohead, with all this type of stuff, where it's just like if they just had a different singer or shut up and were kind of like, instrumentals. I'm a big jam band guy. I'm fine not hearing people sing. All my favorite bands can't sing terribly. So maybe I'm just used to it. But yeah, Metallica's on tour. John pointed out, love Metallica, would go see that. Each song's only 17 minutes long. All right, so we're like similar.
Could you ban my wife from the chat?
I would never. I don't ban. I would never do that to her, especially. I'm agreeing with everything she has to say.
She's great. No, I heard recently that like I saw someone say recently, Sleep Token is like the metals version of Lana Del Rey, and that made me chuckle really hard. We're like, okay, I kind of see it. I've dabbled in Lana here and there, but never really enjoyed the whole catalog. But yeah, I don't know. I think Sleep Token is just one of those. It's crazy. I'm so happy for them that they debuted at like #1 across like almost every freaking billboard, but at the same time it's like they're just a band, the people who are getting infatuated with them, that's cool, but that's where I'm at. I did have to for posterity's sake, I did tell ZB in the chat. I was like, you know what? Even in Arcadia, their latest album, it feels like it's getting a little overhyped. You know, people
Mm-hmm.
are discovering it, loving it. To me, it's okay. I prefer Sundowning, which was their 2019 album, and if I get flamed for that, I get flamed for it. You know, it's
So maybe I'll try to check that out.
eh.
One of this is like a very personal question, but one of the things that
Hmm.
I've been looking to keep out for, because I'll start traveling at some point and maybe start doing these in person. Do you have a Cracker Barrel by you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
like it?
It's not too far. I'm pretty indifferent. I don't love Cracker Barrel.
Mm.
In fact, I think I've gone on record with some of my buddies before saying that I really don't like it all that much, but I'm pretty indifferent. I don't really care where I eat. You know, I'm not one of those. The only thing I don't eat is seafood. Um, I
Yeah.
try it like once a year, and it's just never for me. So
You can really kind of tell the people who are from up north over here. We have
okay.
Cracker Barrel is everything. Cracker
Oh, sure.
Barrel.
I think
So
maybe when you've had like real Southern food, it doesn't quite hit the same. You know?
yeah, that kind of makes a lot more sense. We're kind of deprived up here, but so yeah, the last thing, one of
Extreme.
the it's kind of a hard way to end things, but
Oh no.
I no, because I can't end things.
Okay.
Uh in my previous two, it kind of just spoiled like rolls on until I click the off button.
Gotcha.
Um
Gotcha.
we're gonna try it a different way. Why don't you ask me something and I'll
Okay.
see if I could have it. Something anything that
Hmm.
won't get me in trouble to answer.
That won't get you in trouble. Okay. Hmm. Okay. What? And I know that you've only been dabbling, but what was the last thing that you wrote, and how's
Mm.
it coming along?
The last thing that I wrote, and what was the second part?
And how is it just coming along? You know, like how?
It's been a while. It's been a
Okay.
while. I have something written down where it's maybe like 600 words, and I think I
Yeah.
pushed it up to 800. But the last time I opened that doc and did anything must have been like February or March.
Gotcha.
Um, so I have the idea, I have an outline written, and I'm going to be leaning on all of you guys uh, as time goes
Absolutely.
on to be like, what do you think of this? And I look forward to the cascading booze as
Yeah,
you read
yeah,
it.
yeah, right. Is it still that concept that because I think our first interaction, maybe almost ever, or pretty close to our first, um, was it was like a DM for some reason, and you we were taught. I think I had recommended Spricket the Bard or something of that nature, and you had this idea about this musician who sort of hated the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that so? Is this that same idea, or is it?
Two ideas. That was the original one, and that one I was
Yeah,
fully fleshed out. And I want to give credit to Ryan Patrick, who also just released something recently. He gave me a good outline for it, so I did
yeah,
that. That's like a 3-page outline. I haven't written like any actual words of it, but that's like fully ready to go. But the other one is I was listening to another show called Last Podcast on the Left. I don't know if you know them. It's like a true crime comedy one where it's like one researcher,
mhm,
two comedians.
okay,
They were going over a serial killer, and the guy's name was Herbert Mullen, and he was like he was a schizophrenic who lived in California in like the 70s, and he started killing people because he started hearing voices in his head say that you need to kill them to prevent an earthquake that's going to destroy California. And that was like his whole thing. I don't remember how many people he ended up getting, maybe like 7 or 8 or something like that.
jeez,
Yeah, so crazy, horrible, not good. And I
yeah,
remember listening to that and I was like, what if there was a dark fantasy serial killer who had to do, and then I kind of like went from there, and I have like an
yeah.
outline written, and that was the second idea. But yeah, that was actually, you're right, our first interaction. I do have that one still written out, that's saved in a Google Drive. So both of those at some point will get going. But especially now for posterity because it's on camera and going to be
Right.
there.
I sort of
So
backed you into a corner. Yeah.
I appreciate that though, because like that's how I kind of need the kick in the
The
ass
hard
to
hitting
get going.
questions.
Like that's why I was glad when you and Bill and ZB and everybody over there were like, you should do the live stream and get going. And it was the occasional reminder to be like, was there any progress on that? Like, you know, just little
Yeah.
pushes. And then
Yeah.
once I made the first Twitter post and I was like, I'm going to start this. Who wants to be on it? And like
Yeah.
25, 30 people were like, yo, I do. And then I was like,
Yeah.
fuck. All right. I guess I actually have to go through with
You
this.
actually have to do it.
Yeah.
Or
So
you could say that you're going to go through with it and then just not, which tarnishes the reputation a little bit, but who cares, you know?
that's true. I'm so
That's
anti-mainstream that I could probably deal with a little bit of a hit and,
hell
you know,
yeah,
make
just
it
you
through
know.
unscathed. I think there's been bigger booktube controversy recently where I can kind of fly under the radar.
Yeah, probably there's always something going on.
They
No,
really
the
highly
go ahead.
no, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say the idea of like saying something and sticking with it. It made me think about how I another author saw my timeline that I had made where I'm like I've got my projected releases up until like maybe 2029, like projected projects, and some of them aren't even written yet, right? And they're like, "Wow, I can't believe you posted that." It's like, "Oh, why wouldn't I?" And they're like, because people miss deadlines all the time. Are you crazy? Like, you're pretty brave for doing that. Because, like, what if you can't keep up? And it's like, it just never even occurred to me that I wouldn't be able to keep up. And then once they said that, I was like, oh shit, what if I can't keep up? You know, that that fear, until you recognize what it is you should be afraid of. It's that blind ignorance. You just go through happy, and then it just crashes down on you. Like, oh man, what if I can't keep up? So now you have to keep up. You've got so many. You said you're booking out like months now, right? Like you're projecting towards like
Yeah.
August,
Yeah,
September.
there's a lot of people who want it to be, and those aren't even all the people I reached out to since. Like, it's
Yeah,
kind of been hard. Like, I know I have the glorious Nick Betts in here,
I've
and
heard
I
he's a
want,
machine. He's a
dude,
riding machine.
beast. I love
Yeah.
him, and I'm stoked. He just had book 2 release, pumped.
Yes.
But I'm
Yeah.
playing, like, me and him are talking about November, and
Yeah.
it's like that's crazy because he's, I'm going to try and plan it out when he has book 3 come out, but
Yeah.
you know, there are people who reached out and I always want to give priority to, and other people where it's just like, we're going to make things work. If it has to start going to like twice a week, maybe I'll do that if people are enjoying it. But yeah, I'm glad everyone kind of backed me into a corner and was like,
Yeah.
get this shit cracking. So
Well, most importantly, and if you decide that you do want to do twice a week, I fully support you on that decision, but don't put yourself into so tight of a corner that you get burnt out, because that's no fun for anybody. And I've seen a lot of that in the space where people are doing a lot of stuff because they feel like they need to. And to an extent, yeah, we do need to really do a lot of stuff to stay in like the public's attention and stuff, because unfortunately, attention is a currency nowadays, right? But I feel so bad because you hear about people doing a lot of really exciting things and they're getting burnt out. So you just gotta make sure you take care of yourself, Pete.
I appreciate that. Odds are I am just going to keep it weekly because I'm way too lazy to do this twice. I have an amazing wife and daughter, so I'm not going to be
Yeah.
hibernating for too long. I like the once a week. It gives me like a good time frame to like finish the books, get everything out, and then have my little plan ready.
Fun idea. Once a week, two people on at the same time fighting for your attention.
Ooh.
Sort
See,
of
there
a
we
author
go.
royale sort of thing. And you
I
don't
like
even have
that.
to cap it at 2. You could do 4, 6. Is the audio quality going to severely diminish? Yes. Entertainment values might skyrocket though.
Hi, we are peaking. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
just take the StreamYard link and I'll post it on Twitter. And I'll be like, first 10
Yeah.
people who can get in there, get in. and then we'll
We
just see
are
what
a
happens.
flame. We're a flame,
We're
Pete.
a flame. Onwards and upwards. I do want to just add this to the
Ah,
stage for those still here.
hell
I do
yeah.
appreciate it. I'm sure he
Got this
appreciates it.
bad boy.
Bloodless came out May 9th. I cannot
Brand
recommend
spanking
it
new.
enough. Brand spanking new.
Brand
Uh,
spanking new.
can't recommend it enough. And I'm very much looking forward to getting after it. And I am very grateful that you agreed to come on. And I had a great time with you, sir.
No, absolutely, Pete. I'm glad I was able to make it. I'm glad that we were able to get together. Spicy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't. Spicy means something different in the online community. I don't think it's very spicy. I think my favorite thing I ever did, and I've mentioned it before. I took Blood Woven into the kitchen, and I just grabbed a bunch of spices. I started sprinkling for a stupid freaking TikTok. I started sprinkling a bunch of spices in there for the spice lovers in the fantasy community. I'm pretty sure that's what got me my overnight success. So that's
I would agree with that.
yeah,
And I could
yeah.
not be more proud of you. That and the
It was
talent. But
it was. I think yeah, the book's good and all, but that skit was the best thing I've ever done. She was mad. I actually got paprika all over the nightstand because I forgot it was in the book, and so I like opened the book and it just all fell out. It was a problem. And I did use it was mostly her spices, not mine. So,
dude,
but Pete, thank you for having me.
of course. I look forward to doing it again soon. You are welcome anytime.
Awesome. Yeah, anytime you need a co-host, let me know. I've got no issues with it. Or if somebody bails, we can bully somebody else into joining. You know, the possibilities are endless.
They really are. I love it. I kind of just want to start bullying people now.
We could go into the Willow Wraith press chat and start bullying. I've got the perfect person in mind too.
All right. Tag me in 2 minutes. I'm about to head out of here. Let's get this done.
All right.
All
Later,
right.
Pete.
Talk to you later. Thank you, chat.
Bye,
Thank you
everybody.
for everybody. Be sure to check it out on the Willow Wraith Press YouTube channel and on Spotify in the morning. I am lazy at work. It will be up. And have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye.